DC ignites a stiff resistance to the plan as its northern region arm pickets selected offices of the Electoral Commission today.
It's a forewarning to them that to forewarn is to forearm. We would resist the register with our mind. We will resist it constitutionally and legitimately.
Also tonight, Cabinet scrutinizing Vice President's evidence backing President's claim that his government has fulfilled or is in the process of fulfilling 72% of their 2016 campaign promises. We have details.
How can the government promise that if you have 150, they can force 150 people to build their factories? It's not possible. You, the electorate, if you don't understand something, you should ask.
Also, former chairman of Confiscated Assets Committee under President Mills lashes out at the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office, accusing him of abusing his office in allocating 151 cars to some selected beneficiaries.
I'm challenging him now. Let him come out and then prove to the nation that he has not abused his office. Let him come and prove.
We'll bring you more as Joy News investigations review how the state lost thousands of Ghana cedis after confiscated vehicles were auctioned cheaply by politically connected individuals.
It presupposes that a letter was received with the name office of the president. Then when we sat on it as a committee, it surfaced that it is one of the letters considered for allocation.
And in business, oil marketing companies are expected to review prices at the pumps, that is from tomorrow, by not more than 3%.
And later in sports.
I'm Benedict Owusu and I'm coming to you live from the Accra Sports Stadium where Omina Sharks have beaten Interlice by 3-2. We'll bring you the latest from the other match venues. Also tonight, there's a big game here at the Accra Stadium between Legon Cities and Ashanti Gold with Kwesi Arthur performing. We'll also bring you the latest from the decision of the Confederation of African Football to switch the timing of the Africa Cup of Nations from June back to January, February. Join me in 50 for details.
We have more here on Newsnight. Please join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp is 0244 340 437. I am Emefa Apawu.
And my name is Evans Mensah.
And in our very first story for tonight, former chairman of the Confiscated Assets Committee under President Mills, Carl Wilson, is accusing the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office, Frank Asiedu-Bekwing, of abusing his office in allocating 151 vehicles to some selected beneficiaries. Now, it follows Joy News' investigations, which uncovered how the state lost thousands of Ghana cedis after confiscated cars were auctioned cheaply by politically connected individuals. At least in one case, the duty on a vehicle was captured to have been paid for by the Office of the President. Investigative journalist Kwete Nate reports that in one instance, only 25,000 Ghana cedis was paid on a vehicle when the estimated duty ought to have been 80,000 Ghana cedis.
It's a 2004 VW Touareg. This confiscated vehicle was allocated to one Charles Niteko Tete. A quick online inquiry shows the import duty on this vehicle should range between 63,000 and 88,000, but it was auctioned at just about 25,000. The beneficiary provided a cover letter issued by the Office of the President of Ghana. To verify this, we sent the chassis number of the vehicle to the GRA short code 1477. It returned the make and model of the vehicle as VW Touareg and the importer as the Office of the President with a duty of 25,381 Ghana cedis paid. This amount is just about one-third of the estimated duty. But this is contrary to the provisions of the Customs Act 2015, which stipulates that, quote, the price at which a forfeited motor vehicle is disposed of, whether by auction, sale, allocation, or any other method, should include the duty and eligible taxes on the motor vehicle.
You go through the same process of clearance, so you pay the access duty, and then you go ahead and pay your demurrage, all the taxes, all the levies, all charges, prior to release from the port.
The GRA platform shows no taxes were paid on the vehicle. Head of auction at the GRA, Prince Apawu, tells Joy News his office's interest is not in who exploited the system, but whether duties were paid on the vehicle.
Office of the President.
Yes.
I think that one was allocation.
Okay.
Yes. It presupposes that a letter was received with the name Office of the President. And then when we sat on it as a committee, the letter, in fact, emphasis is not given on the name, but it surfaced that it is one of the letters considered for allocation. So we allocated the vehicle as such, and then the access duty was paid.
By normal terms, must Office of the President pay duty on a vehicle that it wants to use?
You know, Office of the President is big. So somebody writes a letter and puts Office of the President there. We are not after the name. We want somebody who can afford and who can pay the access duty. So once this letter is received, and even Office of the President who receive it, so the emphasis is not on the name. The emphasis is whether the duty was paid. And according to our checks, the duty has been paid, and it was paid by an individual.
But the duty paid was far less than what was supposed to be paid on the 2004 VW Touareg. This is not the only confiscated vehicle on which taxes were not paid. A 2010 Lexus wagon was allocated to one Daniel Akologo. The estimated duty on such a vehicle is 51,000 Ghana cedis. But it was auctioned to Cecilia Kofi at 30,000 Ghana cedis, representing a shortfall of more than 20,000 cedis. In another deal, a 2012 Hyundai Sonata was allocated to one Alexander Jedu. 16,000 Ghana cedis was paid by one Nana Kwame Ajare to the GRA on the vehicle when the estimated duty was 27,000 cedis. In this case too, the 16,000 Ghana cedis paid covered the duty. Out of the 5 vehicles sampled from the 151 confiscated cars allocated, the state could have lost an estimated duty of 130,000 Ghana cedis based on checks from the online platform duty calculator. This practice, our investigation showed, was widespread when we examined all the 151 vehicles the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's Office, Frank Asiedu Bekwin, requested to be allocated on the 20th of December 2017. His letter to the Commissioner General of the GRA read in part, quote, "I hereby write for the consideration of the attached list of vehicles with their chassis numbers to be allocated to the corresponding names. Your usual cooperation in this regard is highly anticipated." Unquote. This request was also made on a letterhead claiming to be from the Office of the President. The request was sought when Mr. Bekwin was head of the Confiscated Assets Committee. Head of auction at the GRA, Prince Apawu, explains that members of this committee are not supposed to make allocations. Their duty is to monitor the process.
But the fact is that if you come to Section 59 of the Customs Act 2015 Act 891, it made it clear that goods confiscated are confiscated to the state. So therefore, the state has a duty to monitor and then the disposal of those goods. So the confiscated secretariat comes in to monitor how those goods are disposed of.
So if I'm a member of the confiscated committee, my job only is to monitor. I can't allocate.
Never. No allocation is done by the confiscated secretariat.
He explains how his unit deals with influential persons who apply for vehicles to be allocated to them.
We have a way of scrutinizing the letters to decipher which one is of merit. And then you can also come to the auction grounds, and the days are advertised in daily papers. You come to the auction grounds. In fact, for some reason, customs don't do the auction, the public auction. So, as you indicated, I cannot guarantee you I cannot guarantee you that you can. Once you apply, you will definitely get.
Joy News contacted the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office, Frank Asiedu Bekwin, for his comments on the matter. He declined to speak. Kwete Nate's report for Joy News.
But speaking on the Super Morning Show today, former chairman of the Confiscated Assets Committee, Carl Wilson, indicated that it was irregular for the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office to allocate vehicles to beneficiaries with attached chassis numbers.
The office of the president is being abused. It is being abused, clearly. I'm not going to mince words in saying this. They are abusing the office of, what's the name of the Director of Political Affairs? I'm challenging him now, me, Carl Wilson, yes. Let him come out and then prove to the nation that he has not abused his office. Let him come and prove. Why am I saying that he's abusing his office? Number one, the letterhead he used, the green letterhead, is a very powerful letterhead. You don't use it just like that. Now, he took the green letterhead. It's a privilege to be able to allow to sign that green letterhead. Now, took it, put a name of people, and he allocated the car to the people. Why am I saying that? It's not the committee that allocated the cars. He took it upon himself. Judge, jury, and executioner. That's what he did. He sat in his office, put names on that green letterhead, and then allocated cars with chassis numbers. It is never done. It's clear abuse of office. And then he must be called to order. It's clear abuse of office. You can't do that. How can you? There's a committee, an allocation committee. So it should go to the committee. The committee will look at people who need it. Even if it's the government requesting it for its people, they will look at the names that comes and they make the judgment as to who is allocated. That's why it's called allocation.
But how do you know this does not happen in this case?
It's not happen. It can't have happened. If it has happened, he will not put chassis numbers to it. That's not the process. That's not the normal process. You shouldn't allocate cars with chassis name and chassis numbers and give it to give to them. No, it's not done.
You heard there, Carl Wilson speaking on the Super Morning Show today.
You're still listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. The Electoral Commission's Imminent Advisory Committee has tasked the commissioners to immediately schedule a tripartite meeting with political parties to resolve the controversy associated with the push for a new voters register. This call follows a meeting the Electoral Commission at the Electoral Commission today to outline and the Electoral Commission really organized this meeting to outline the justification for the procurement of a new biometric voter management system and the compilation of a new voters register for the 2020 general elections. My colleague Parker Wilson monitored that meeting and is in the studio with us. Which eminent persons were in this meeting?
Okay, so the chairman of the National Peace Council was present. In fact, the chairman of the committee, Short himself, was also present. The Ghana Bar Association president, Tony Folsom, present in this meeting, and quite a number of them. Now, Evans, this meeting, we are told that was called on the behest of the advisory committee, basically because of the agitation that has greeted the Electoral Commission's proposal for a new voters register going forward into the December 7 polls.
Do we know what happened in the meeting?
Yes, I mean, our sources tell us that the Electoral Commission wanted the committee to have a better appreciation of the process. So they invited their in-house IT expert to brief the committee on how the process works. So it went on and on for quite about 2 hours. And there was just one simple question the members asked the commission. Is it possible that with what we have at the moment, can we conduct the elections with what we have at the moment? And the answer was yes, we can. It is possible. But refurbishing the new devices will be expensive, more expensive than procuring a new one for the elections. So that was the answer the Electoral Commission gave to the committee. The committee were quite satisfied with it though, but they wanted the Electoral Commission to engage, have a further deliberation with the political parties to understand the process. And Evans, there was one thing that my source told me about what the members said about the communication strategy of the Electoral Commission, since some political parties were raising concerns over the voters register, and they made it clear to the commission that their communication strategy is quite problematic, and so they need to up their game when it comes to communicating to the public and the political parties to have a better appreciation of the whole process and bring them on board to understand why we need a new voters register. So the EC admitted and said that, well, going forward, they are going to up their game and ensure that they have a better communication strategy with the political party, because at the end of the day, they are the stakeholders. They are going to the election, and everything they need to do, they have to do to ensure they bring them on board.
There's a communique from this meeting?
Yes, there was a communique from the meeting, and the communique essentially was to direct the Electoral Commission with immediate effect and as soon as possible organize a tripartite committee with the political parties. And Evans, we are told that this thing is going to happen hopefully on Monday. And so the Electoral Commission is expected to officially write to the political parties tomorrow and invite them for this conversation on Monday, where they can have further deliberation and a conversation on how the process works and whether or not the parties are going to agree to the Electoral Commission's proposal.
Justice Emil Short, who chairs this particular committee, has signed a statement, which a copy of what we have now. Emefa, what does he say?
So it says that the Electoral Commission on Wednesday, 15 January 2020, held a meeting with members of the Eminent Advisory Committee to outline the justification for the procurement of a new biometric voter management system and the compilation of a new voters register for the 2020 general elections. At the end of the meeting, it was agreed that the Electoral Commission and the Eminent Advisory Committee will meet with members of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, to have further deliberations on the matter. Meanwhile, the Eminent Advisory Committee calls for calm from all political parties and other stakeholders as they work in the national interest.
Mainly, we know that the NDC that has been leading the protest and opposition to the new voters register. We'll speak to Elbisi Friankra, who is the party's director of elections, shortly. But I want to bring in the director of elections of the MPP, Mr. Evans Demako. Mr. Demako, can you hear me, sir? I think we've lost him. We'll try and get him back. But across the NDC has today taken the opposition to the new voters register a step further. And this is in the upper regions?
Well, so they have made further push to resist attempts by the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register, and it's been reignited. We know that in the Northern Region branch, for instance, they staged demonstrations at the premises of selected offices of the Electoral Commission in the region. The Northeast Region Communication Officer of the party, Imoro Zakaria, who spoke to Joy News, says they are ready to put their lives on the line to ensure the Electoral Commission abandons the plan to compile the register.
Last week Saturday's demonstration in Tamale, the northern regional capital, was a clear signal to the Electoral Commission and the MPP government that at least election in Ghana is run on consultative basis. We need to consult all stakeholders, get them on board so that we have peaceful and credible election. But if the Electoral Commission is bent on compiling the register against the will of the ordinary Ghanaian, then the Electoral Commission led by Madam Jean Mensah doesn't mean well for Ghana, because the NDC will not sit down and allow her, just for her personal and partisan purpose and interest, to run Ghana into the ashes. We will not sit down and allow her to do that. But it is a clear signal to her that what is happening today in the Vice President's constituency, Dr. Bawume's constituency, is a forewarning to them that to forewarn is to forearm. We would resist the register with our might. We will resist it constitutionally and legitimately to make sure that they don't compile any register that is a register that will see President Akufo-Addo elected as president. Be him being the wish of the people or not, you should be elected in 2020. We will resist that. The NDC is a democratic party. The NDC is bent on seeing that it follows all the constitutional and legitimate processes to it that if Ghanaians really deserve a new register, then the processes of compiling a new register through procurement to the last stage should be made public.
And that is the Northeast Region Communications Officer of the NDC, Imoro Zakaria. And in that part of the country, the NDC have today been picketing at various EC offices there in furtherance of their resolve to resist the compilation of a new voters register. Let's return to Evans Demako, who is the Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party, the governing party. We lost him earlier on the line. Apologies there, Mr. Nemako. Tell me, we've just had details of this meeting between the Electoral Commission and its advisory committee. They are calling for calm, and we understand that there's going to be a formal meeting now with the parties as soon as Monday. What's your reaction to the outcome of this meeting today?
Thank you, Evans. I think that for us as the New Patriotic Party, anytime we are invited by the Electoral Commission and the eminent advisory committee, we honor that invitation. But I want to put it on record that the conduct of Mr. Imoro Zakaria is very unfortunate. I think that the leadership of the NDC must get more responsible people to speak to some of these issues. It doesn't lie in the mouth of any individual. It is the law. And this hypocrisy of the NDC must be stopped. They can't be lawless. The Constitution of Ghana says that it is the EC that has the mandate to compile register. Is the NDC saying that they want to compile register for Ghana or what? They've never accepted any request of the MPP, date back 2014, 2015, 2016, that there should be a new register. Yet the New Patriotic Party became victorious with a margin of 1 million presidential votes. And so, please,
you call their protests an illegality, but when you were in opposition, you also protested because you thought the existing voters register, in fact, the same one, was bloated. The EC again exercises constitutional mandate and prerogative not to compile a new one, even though you asked that. You exercise your constitutional right to protest. They are also exercising theirs to protest the decision of the EC currently. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, that they can demonstrate, but to come with words like "you escalate," Ghana will bend. I've heard Mr. Fiyanka, I've heard Mr. Siedun Ketia, and what I'm saying is that for us as New Patriotic Party, we will use our limited resources to organize our party. Yes, when we disagreed, we had gone to court. Others had gone to court. So it was not lying in the mouth of MPP that whether rain or shine, there must be a new register. But the EC said, I'm going to go ahead with the old register to conduct the 2016 elections. That's what we saw. The next moment was the composition of Justice Card Committee that advised the EC. The New Patriotic Party never said Ghana was going to bend. You hear this gentleman talking on top of his voice with that anger that the NDC will not sit for Nana Adanko Akufo-Addo and Madame Charlotte Osei to rig an election. This is very unfortunate. We've always won an election that we've made demand that the right thing must be done. We've always resorted to the law. We've never been lawless. Even when we go to court, doesn't mean you're a lawless person. I don't think that's the case.
That is Evans Demako, who is the NPP's Director of Elections. On the telephone line with me also right now is Peter Tokuno. He is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Mr. Tokuno, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
You are welcome.
So we just had an announcement by the advisory committee, the EC's advisory committee. They've asked the Electoral Commission to reach out and engage on dialogue more, and letters are going to be written to you for that to happen. Is the NDC interested in honoring that invitation once it comes?
This was long overdue, and I think that this exposes the incompetence of the Electoral Commission or the Mensah-led Electoral Commission. Because the standard operating procedure for the introduction of register and electoral reforms have been to do an exhaustive discussion at IPAC. Unfortunately, we do not know why the issue will consider IPAC as irrelevant, as non-existent, and disregard us and disrespect us, only for a committee of eminent advisors to come together and say, hey, go back to the table and do discussion. I think this exposes the Electoral Commission value. It shows how incompetent they are. Elsewhere, they would have resigned their jobs to be staying at home by now. But we believe that this is also a welcoming news. We believe this is a roadmap towards the adopting of the idea of compiling a new voter register. And we welcome any move to drop the idea of compiling a voter register. Whilst at it would continue to embark on our public manifestation to grab further the need to, as a matter of urgency, drop this needless expedition of 823 million of the taxpayers' money on this new register when we do not need and we do not have any use for such a new register.
So, do I hear you say that once the invitation comes, you participate fully in the dialogue going forward?
Evans, we have been very committed to dialogue from the beginning, and as you may recall, from the early days, we have been demanding for dialogue on this matter. We have been demanding for consensus. We have been demanding consensus. And if you would recall, we even requested that since the president believes so much in consensus, as he mentioned during the dropping of the referendum, he should come in and request the commission to do some consensus rather than following the electoral commission and supporting them on all this unholy mission of compiling a new voter register. But if they are walking out from the seat and they think that consensus building is very, very important and there is a need for everybody to be heard on whether we need a voter register or not, I think that it's a welcoming news. But what we would say is that we demand that by all means this register is dropped, and we hope that when we meet during the discussions, the reason that never found space in the decision of the electoral commission will now find space in the decision of the electoral commission finally to drop the register.
I'm grateful that you could join us. That is the Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. You're still listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. A few of your messages on our WhatsApp console.
It says, is it the same IPAC that the Jean Mensah-led insists is only advisory and that decisions by it isn't binding, that the advisory committee wants the EC to meet? Isn't the EC independent again? That's from Berima Kubaji in Jene. This one, Yao Ntema says, the scam of so-called allocation of vehicles is nothing new. This has been the phenomenon for all governments, NPP and NDC, since I started working in the port industry 15 years ago. Yao Ntema sends that one in. This one also says, another one we have here is also from Sam in the UK, and he says, why is the NPP guy unable to confirm if they trust the current register or not? They knew what they did during the 2016, and okay, it goes on. That's Sam from UK sends that one in. And this one also says, from AU Farouk, Tamale North, it says, in fact, Electoral Commission being independent does not mean it can hold the masses to a hot, he says. We in opposition parties will use all constitutional rights to bring the EC to order. Some of your messages that you've sent in via WhatsApp.
And yesterday, and we'll do business very shortly, George is just joining me. Yesterday, we brought you the story of a letter purportedly written by the Chief Director of the Finance Ministry to the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Securities and Exchange Commission has a rejoinder, a reaction, rebuttal to that particular story, which had alleged that in this particular original letter written in 2018, they had been directed to revoke the licenses of a number of fund management companies. What did this letter say? What was the claim in this letter?
Well, it says this is to kindly remind you of your mandate under the Securities Industry Act 929 to protect investors, maintain surveillance, monitor solvency, and above all, protect the integrity of the capital market. However, the current situation facing some specified fund management companies in the country, having been directed several times to protect customers' and investors' interests, calls for a concern. It is against this backdrop that you are hereby directed to revoke the licenses of those companies, particularly Gold Coast Fund Management Limited, that have failed to return clients' funds which remain locked up. This will let the public, especially customers, clients, and investors of those fund management companies, have confidence in the government and also prevent any impending demonstration that will make the government unpopular. We should all be reminded that next year is an election year, and for that matter, we must not give room for any unnecessary agitations by customers of these companies as it happened to the DKM and others. This was signed by the Chief Director. Patrick Numo.
SEC has a reaction to that. In fact, a rejoinder that they've written today to this and to us. What are they saying?
SEC said they did not receive this, and they've also made checks at the Finance Ministry. It was not written to them. So I'll read to you what they said in this rejoinder to us. It says, the attention of the Securities and Exchange Commission has been drawn to the above-mentioned news item, which was aired during the 6 p.m. news of Tuesday, 14th January 2020, and subsequently published on myjoyonline.com. The news item and the publication was done without contacting SEC to confirm its veracity or otherwise. The SEC categorically states that it was not in receipt of the said letter from the Ministry of Finance. In addition, SEC has confirmed from the Ministry of Finance that the letter and its content did not originate from them. So it goes on to ask for a retraction and an apology during the 6 p.m. news of 15th of January 2020, and this was signed by Reverend Daniel Ubami Tete, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission.
What is our stance on this?
Well, in the absence of any further evidence, we would like to say sorry. We would like to apologize to them and retract.
George Jaffe is here with the very latest on the world of business. Hello, George, and I know you've been following this story quite closely as well. What else you have in the headlines today?
Well, Evans, coming up in business, Bank of Ghana hints of more actions against persons that might have contributed to the banking sector crisis following after they charged the founders of UT Bank as well as Beige Bank. So they are telling us that they will be taking actions against anyone that might have contributed to the crisis. And oil marketing companies are expected to review their prices from tomorrow by not more than 3%, and that's according to the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essential. And First National Bank, we are the bank that actually understands your business.
Hello, Lieutenants. Thank you for showing up at our monthly meeting. I have some good news for you today. Electricity credit, no. Hey! Oh, relax. I am not increasing it. I just want you to know, from today, you have your own meter. So now you buy exactly what you want to use. Flexi bundling.
What's your customize, Anna?
Oh, yes. Just like that. And it doesn't expire too.
Life is good with MTN Flexi Bundle. Now you have full control to pick and choose your very own bundle packages. Whether you want to bundle 3 pesos, 20 pesos, 20 cities, 30 pesos, or even 115 cities, we dare for you. Just dial *138# or *170# to enter any amount. And bingo, you are good to go. So go ahead and enjoy bundles that don't expire. That's why we're good together. We dare for you everywhere you go.
Mr. Barr has big dreams for his business, Barr & Co. Limited, and his family, making them a reality meant long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
We know it's important to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in your employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is regulated and licensed by the National Health Insurance Authority to provide medical insurance services to institutional clients, families, and individuals. Apex Student Package and International Medical Solutions are all here to cushion you. Visit Apex Health Insurance Office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, or call
0501 683 914
or 0232 000 015. In Kumasi, we are located opposite Prempe College, Sofo Line, and in Takrady, Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, oil marketing companies are expected to review prices at the pumps from tomorrow. Now, that's according to the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, that is Duncan Amwa. The review is in line with the bi-weekly adjustment at the pumps by these companies. Amwa tells Joy Business that it could go up by as much as 3% per litre.
Confirmed that whatever hits they were taking, together with whatever variances that have also accrued over the past 2 weeks, they would do something quite reasonable for everybody. But for some interventions that we occasionally do put in with them, I'm sure we could have done about 15 pesos. But what I'm seeing with a lot of the major ones so far, it might not go above 10 pesos tomorrow.
I've engaged some other oil marketing companies. Now, let's talk about the GOIL factor, because they are a major player here. Some of the OMCs have said that because GOIL hasn't moved, we also don't want to move. Do we get the indication that finally the biggest player in the industry believe that, okay, it is the right time to adjust prices and therefore I have to do it?
You see, George, petroleum prices are purely numbers, numbers game. If you let 1 peso go, it has a way of hitting your revenue or financials. GOIL, because it has the largest volumes on the market and also the largest number of outlets, has become more or less the benchmark for everybody. Now, the GOIL management, I can confirm, are too pro-Ghanaian oriented, and so most of the time they are even more worried about prices going up than we at the chamber.
But they are not for the Christmas. They are not they are a private company that they are supposed to make returns for their shareholders.
You see, George, for me at COPEC, if God decided to reduce prices for me tomorrow morning instead of going up, I'll clap for them.
And Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Let's do banking, and the Bank of Ghana has indicated that it could soon take more actions against heads of the collapsed banks in the country. Now, this is coming out of the state leveled some charges of money laundering and stealing against the founder of UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amabing, as well as the Beige Bank, that is Michael Hineku. According to the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Madam Elsie Waji, this shows that the regulators are resolved in ensuring that anyone that contributed to this challenge is dealt with.
We have always said, after we completed our cleanup exercise, that we had passed on all relevant information to the law enforcement agencies, and we expected them to conduct their own investigations and proceed to do the needful if they found any behavior to have had criminal implications. And so I believe what we saw yesterday was in line with what the law enforcement authorities may have found to be behavior that they needed to follow up on. We've seen too many fingers burned in the recent past in Ghana. We've seen too many people lose money, and it is our definite hope that that doesn't happen anymore. And we are doing all we can to engage key stakeholders like the police service to ensure that we're able to mobilize ourselves to enforce the law strictly sooner than later.
Madam Elsiawaji is the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. Now, 3 pharmaceutical companies, Danex, Iton, and Starwin, have officially listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange today after they actually secured the permission from the regulator to merge these entities. The listing is part of expansion plans by the company to enter into other West African markets. Speaking to Joy Business after the listing, chairman of the merged entity, Nick Amatefu, said the company is now looking at targeting the Anglophone West African countries as part of its first step in its expansion drive.
We should be. We are looking at the English speaking, so that's Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia. And then we hold Nigeria as a very important but tough market. So you go there only when you have well thought out strategy and analysis on the risk side, because Catapreco has been there with disastrous results. We that also have had appointed people there before in Nigeria, but had not done very well. We have sold to the Anglophone, to the Francophone. We've sold to Togo. They didn't pay.
Nick Amatefu is the chairman of the merged entity that is Danex, Iton, and Starwin, and these 3 companies have officially listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Let's do some oil story first. And Talu ended last year recording some significant earnings. According to its latest operational update, it hit a profit of $700 million, while revenue stood at $1.7 billion. On the average, daily production was pegged at 86,000 barrels, and that is what the company is telling us in terms of their expansion drive. And Energy Commission says will soon engage traders of imported fridges and other appliances to enforce its ban on its importation. Although the Commission admits that second-hand fridges are smuggled into the country, it says it is engaging the traders so that it can stop this practice. Herbert Zain, that is actually an inspector with the Commission.
Informal engagement with them is that, we knew the ban was coming up, so we decided to stock some of them. You cannot falter them because you don't have any evidence. So the excuse they are giving now is that what you are seeing in La Paz, in Kaneshi, is not imported, but they are old stock. And I think there's a way forward. We will have to take inventory of what they have in an agreement with them so that as time goes by, we don't expect your old stock to keep on increasing. And I think that will be the way forward. So officially, used fridges are banned. And when you go to Tema ports, the importers, everyone is aware. When you go through the GCNet system, there are no history or import history of refrigerators in commercial quantity, used refrigerators. So per Ghana standard, it's banned. Question is, physically, we are seeing it in the market. So we have to find a solution for the market.
Hilbert Zain is an inspector in charge of energy efficiency at the Energy Commission. And that is all for business. But before we go, let's turn our attention to the stock market, where MTN, for instance, closed trading today by dropping a peso, actually. So the share is now worth 69 pesos as well. And that is all for business on Newsnight. And for respect to Danex, Iton, and Starwin, today they closed trading up by a peso, and it's now worth 40 pesos. So the first day of trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange, the value of the share actually went up by a peso to close at 40 pesos. That is the new merged entity Danex, Iton, and Starwin PLC. And that is all for business on Newsnight. Evans.
George, thank you very much. And talking about cash, the cash-strapped Ghana Grid Company is set for major financial boost that will result in improvement in its electricity transmission line. The effect of that means reliable supply of power in your home and improvement in revenue for Gridco.
So last night at the Jubilee House, the German government signed for the release of 250 million euros to Ghana under the Germany-Africa Compact. The deal will see German firm Siemens working together with Gridco to improve the country's grid capacity, as well as expand a stable power export to neighboring countries in the West African power pool. It is also to modernize the entire grid system in the country in order to bring power to the homes of Ghanaians at an affordable rate. Chief Executive Officer Siemens Southern and Eastern Africa, Sabina Daloma, said Ghana's impressive democratic credentials won her the money.
The MOU will, together with our partner Gridco, will have the purpose to modernize the whole grid of Ghana in steps, one at a time, but not also modernize the grid. and bring the power to the people in a more efficient way. But also, have young people and train them and educate them for the future of digitalization, which not only happens in big factories, it also happens in energy and in industry and in the infrastructure. And when we talk about Compact for Africa, this is about giving young people a future. This is about showing them the way on how to develop. And the first thing in this future, in this vision, is about electrification. It's about energy. It gets pretty dark at night if there is no light. So we need to have this sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy. And the next is going to be looking in infrastructure, transporting people and goods. And once companies or once countries and economies have that, the industry will come, because they know almost 30 million people.
Now, the German government in 2018 announced the compact for 6 African countries, including Ghana. Now, it targets reform-minded countries, international organizations and bilateral partners from G20 and beyond to coordinate country-specific reform agenda, as well as support respective policy measures. President Akufo-Addo is optimistic the compact will retool GridCo.
Really, we should now move from the talk to the walk. It was an opportunity that could not be allowed to go by. And I'm really happy that at the end of it, this very important step in the energy sector of our country is taking place. I think that the people from GridCo know as well as I do how necessary it is to undertake this project. The retooling, refitting of our transmission system, of our grid system across the country, especially when you have an idea of the kind of future that we want to design for ourselves as a rapidly industrializing economy that is going to be focused on important infrastructural developments as well as big resource developments in our bauxite, in our manganese, and our iron ore industry. All of this is going to have to be focused very much around the accessibility to power and the rest. So this is a very, very welcome development for us. And the idea that Ghana is the first country on the continent to be getting a really significant transaction out of the compact is in itself a big vote of confidence by the German leadership, by Chancellor Merkel and yourself, one of the great.
Well, let's speak down to Ebenezer Mankwa. He speaks for GridCo. Joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Mankwa, thank you for your time here on the news. Now, we know GridCo had been in the news last year. Workers agitating that they've not been paid and that the place was run down because of lack of financial assistance. How much of a difference will this make?
Well, thank you very much, Evans. I think that essentially this agreement sets a good tone for the year for the Ghana Grid Company. I think what the compact seeks to do for us, it's a three-pronged approach. The first point is that it's going to obviously empower GridCo with the right resources to export excess electric energy to other neighboring countries like Togo, Benin, and Burkina Faso, for example. The second point, which I think is very critical, is that it would help us strengthen our grid in this country. I know that you agree with me that energy is the lifeline of most economies, including Ghana's. And the stability of the grid, for which GridCo is a crucial part of, is very necessary for us to promote and enhance our economy. So that's second. The third one is that this partnership would also help the German government support Ghana in training talented young engineers for the future as far as electricity distribution, transmission, and generation is concerned. So it's a good step for the country and for its progress in the sub-region. And I think we, as an integral part of the transmission of power in the sub-region, we are excited that this would go a long way to help us as a company going forward.
Ebenezer Mankwa speaks for GridCo. Thank you very much.
It's time now for sports, and Benedict Owusu joins us via telephone with the latest. Benedict, what's in sports?
Well, Emefa, thank you very much. And much before, the Ghana Premier League recorded some amazing results. And here at the Accra Stadium, the first game between Albina Sharks and home team Interlice and they're 3-2 in favor of Sharks, who had their owner, Dr. Papakutin, watching them from the stands. Of course, this comes as a huge disappointment to Interallies. Here is their midfielder, Mohamed Zakaria.
Disappointed with the outcome of the game.
Yeah, very disappointed because we didn't come in for a loss. At least we came in for the maximum 3 points, but if not the 3 points, at least we should have managed and get a point. So we are very disappointed. Thank you.
So that was Mohamed Zakaria, who plays his club football for Interallies. So the second game and the last game of the day is about to start, and that's between Legon City and Ashanti Gold, who are hoping to keep their fine start intact. Well, other games played this afternoon. Bekum Chelsea beat Dreams FC by a goal to no. Mediama FC, their game against Kumasi Asante Kotoko at their compact. Mediama won by a goal to no. So what it means is that back-to-back defeat to Asante Kotoko. King Faisal managed to draw 2-2 with Bechu United, and Wafa in their game against Akwa Hearts also ended goalless at the Sugako Park, with Liberty Professionals going away to get a 2-1 win over Buson Dwarfs, and 11-1 in their game against Diana Stars, won by a goal to no. Well, away from the Ghana Premier League, the Ghana Football Association has confirmed the appointment of former Black Stars captain Siki Akono as the new coach of the Black Stars. He will be assisted by former Kotoko coach David Duncan. Of course, Siki and Duncan will be expected to go and do well at the next Africa Cup of Nations, which has been changed again in terms of the time, and the Executive Council of the Confederation of African Football, after a meeting today, has agreed the 2021 tournament in Cameroon will be staged in January and February. And Evans and Emefa, of course, if you floor of the English Premier League and the other major leagues around that time, it's very, very intense for the clubs. And you look at a team like Liverpool, looking at everything that they are doing currently. Let's say the Africa Cup of Nations in January and they are fighting to win the English Premier League. How will Jurgen Klopp cope without the likes of Sadio Mane? Look at Mohamed Salah, as well as players like Naby Keita and Manchester City. We can also talk about Mahrez. It's a very difficult one for some of these clubs to deal with.
Thank you very much, Benedict Owusu, reporting live there from the Accra Sports Stadium. Now, Cabinet is tonight scrutinizing the data compiled by the Vice President that provides the evidence to back the President's claim that his government has fulfilled or is in the process of fulfilling 72% of their 2016 campaign promises.
Now, Imani Africa had scored the government 48%, but the president disagreed. Imani Africa had challenged the government to publish the evidence that supports their 72% claim. Well, Monitoring and Evaluation Minister Anthony Akutose revealed on PM Express last night that the issue was on the agenda of the cabinet meeting, which is currently underway.
The evidence is available. It's going to be shown to cabinet, and then it can become public.
Oh, you're going to show it to cabinet? The cabinet hasn't approved it yet.
No. It's available with in the Vice President's office. Okay. But it's not a matter of approving. It's making it known to us so that we also will know. Not everybody knows all of it. But the Vice President's office has done the homework, so he's going to let us know in cabinet that, look, this is why I said it's 72%, so that the rest of us can follow.
Is that to suggest that when the President said it, the rest of you have not seen it?
Not all of us. Okay. Those of us who work close with the Vice President knew the information, but not every member of cabinet has seen them, because what the Vice President was doing was not to work for us. He was gathering evidence to give to the President so that the President can make those statements.
How much?
Well, Dr. Kutose also conceded it would be impossible for the government to fully fulfill its promise to have one factory in all 254 districts across the country by the end of his first term, but it is his argument about the failure of the electorate to fully comprehend the one district, one factory promise that is tonight causing controversy. Listen.
Now, how can the government promise that if you have 150, they can force 150 people to build their factories? It's not possible.
You said that the one district, one factory initiative also included old and previously existing factories.
Yes. But initially, it was not understood. People didn't understand that way.
Is it a case of we misunderstanding you, or you failing to communicate what you plan to do in a way that people can understand and judge you and hold you to?
I think if we fail to miscommunicate, then you will not understand it. But it's a combination of both. Because people also wanted to believe what they want to believe.
This is the electorate that voted for you you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
That the electorate wanted to believe what they wanted to believe.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That we did not communicate enough for them to understand that it was for both and new. So it's not a person's fault per se.
It is not the electorate's fault.
No,
It is
I'm not
purely
even,
entirely
I'm not even
the
imputing
fault
fault on anybody. Not communicating well does not mean that you are doing something wrong. We are human beings.
So we didn't misunderstand. You failed to
No,
communicate.
I don't know what
we have to clarify that.
It depends on what you wanted to understand. If you truly wanted to
But
understand,
there you go
I'm
again about the electorate.
No, I'm talking about you, the electorate. If you don't understand something, you should ask.
Let me bring in President of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo. Mr. Kujo, your reaction to what you just heard.
Good evening, Evans. Happy New Year to you and Emefa. Well, first of all, I think these are interesting times. And let me just say that it's a bit unfair to the electorate to hear the explanations being offered. Because don't forget, that particular promise actually had traveled several, should I call it, conversations. Initially, it was supposed to be state-led. Then at some point, they said it would be private sector-led. And then at some point, we all asked questions as to the type of factories and then whether the factories would necessarily have to be dotted all over the place. And so there was some fair amount of conversations around this particular promise. And I submit that at the end of the day, the government did say that it was going to be partially private sector-led. I mean, so it is a bit difficult to swallow that it was some misunderstanding on the part of the electorate. I don't think that is particularly fair.
And it says a lot about this year's election season. Based on what we are now hearing, shouldn't anything change about the promises, but also the way as citizens and electorate we take these promises hook, line, and sinker?
Well, let me just give you an anecdote. I recall in the run-up to the 2016 elections, when the promise of one village, one dam was made, for instance, I overheard a conversation on a chief speaking radio station. And I recall that the host was asking this government spokesperson, the opposition at the time, was asking the spokesperson, well, do you know what we are talking about? And so, well, we haven't counted the villages yet. So we are not able to specifically say that we'll put dams in everywhere. And then the guy followed up and said, well, if you haven't done that, whose money are you going to use to do that? And the guy virtually couldn't answer the question, which suggested that sometimes these promises are made in the heat of the moment. And my good friend Dr. Kutu actually suggested that people also want to hear what they want to hear. I would rather submit that they were rather telling us what we should be hearing. But the electorate was not lost on exactly what these things meant. And I suspect that going into 2020 elections, as always, there should be this quantification, and if you like, the qualitative assessment of these promises, which I submit obviously was not lost in 2016 at all. I think the electorate is getting wiser, and we'll be seeing a lot more of these kinds of interrogations going into 2020.
I'm grateful that you could join me, Franklin Kujo.
And it's a good time to talk about Surunipa, to wit, fear people, a popular cant phrase used by some in cautioning people about others. It's a term Vice President Bawumia, who is known to be a fierce advocate for automation of all systems in the country, borrowed yesterday as he continues to fight corruption with digitization. Listen.
Once you digitize, you essentially take away the interference of human beings in what you are doing. It's not that we don't like human beings, but when it comes to corruption, they say, Suro Nipa. Once you throw the Nipa, you will make sure you automate the systems. It's very difficult to drive a computer, and so you will go ahead and digitize.
And that's it for News Night here on Joy 99.7 FM. It's brought to you by Puma Card from Puma Energy, cash-free convenience. I am Emefa, Apawu.
And my name is Mensah. Enjoy the rest of the
Nash Shoko and the team are coming up with Strong and Sassy. Guess what?
Tell
Why
me.
do ladies like older men?
Huh?
That's what they're
Say
talking
that I
about.
didn't hear what you said.
Why do ladies like older men?
Oh.
Is it true?
So you like older men?
Is it true?
So why? It's an assumption there is that ladies like older men.
Yeah.
So you like older men?
No.
Ah, okay.
Mm,
So you are an exception.
Exception, yes.
Ah, okay. Yeah.